Alright, so did you want to take it?
No, baby, it's your pod. You do it. Do you want to do it? Do you want to do like a dry run?
No, I'd rather just do it. And if it's terrible, it's terrible.
That's the kind of quality we like to put forth on this podcast.
Welcome back to Punch Drunk Nerd, podcast where three friends, three amigos get together and talk about nerd shit from movies to TV to games and everything in between. This week we are one short. Our great leader, Luis Gonzalez, is away, getting ready to actually come down and see us, because it is his bachelor weekend. At long last, it has arrived. But with me, we do have our other guy. Not Steven Escobar, but
wow.
no, Miguel Sanchez.
I'm an OG member. I just got called other guy. And then here's this other guy that shows up every now and then.
I couldn't think of something clever, and I saw Sarah walking by in the corner of my eye, so I got distracted. So that's how sharp my wit is tonight.
Known you for 25 years. I couldn't say one nice thing just to get me into the pod real quick.
And here's the tres to my leches, Miguel Sanchez. So pull out an oldie, but a goodie.
Hey, that's a pretty good one, actually.
So what's up, Miguel? How's it going?
I'm doing great, man. Thanks for asking. I was gone last week. My wife
welcome back.
We're traveling so much right now. Like, we just got back from Houston last week. I'm immediately turning around and going to Austin.
Back to Houston.
Well, Houston first. I'm flying in. It's a bigger hub. And gonna ride with my good friend Ed to Austin. We're gonna have a great time. Me. That's you.
Hey. So to all our loyal listeners, that is why our episodes have been sporadic in length, and we'll eventually, after the summer madness gets back to normal, we'll get back to normal.
We hope.
We hope. Maybe not. Fuck it. This is how we roll
now.
That is literally our motto. We're just vibing. But we have no news to get into this week. We are going to be reviewing Indiana Jones and the Dial of Destiny, and that's going to be it for this week, because Miguel too has to pack and get ready to come down and visit. So, but before we get into all of that, Miguel, have you been wondering how the summer box office has been going?
Oh, baby.
Do you wake up every morning?
Last year, I was like, maybe I'll win. And this year, I was like, okay, this is over. You know what I mean? Like, I feel like I'm
starting to think that way.
Too many critical errors, but I was confident. I was confident when I said them, and I stand by my choices. I was just wrong, and it is what it is.
Well, before we go into little details, because I have a counter for you on that.
Okay.
We did finally add Indiana Jones and the Dial of Destiny to our list, and it came in with a maybe underwhelming $60 million. Underwhelming to some, I'm sure, but whatever. Yeah, not great, but apparently it had really good Monday sales. Obviously, we had the 4th of July weekend holiday, so that really boosted its numbers. And actually, the Rotten Tomatoes on this movie have been rising, all the way from the 40s, I think.
I saw that. And one of the tweets I saw talking about it said, I bet Disney will think again next time before they release something at Cannes. You know what I mean?
Yeah. I mean, this is the second or third time. I mean, I think they did Crystal Skull at Cannes too, and that was obviously not a good idea. Yeah. So yeah, it's not necessary, that's for sure. But so to what you were saying just a minute ago, Miguel, you were saying how you weren't thinking you were going to win, but let me tell you, you definitely had Spider-Man Across the Spider-Verse higher than both me and Luis. And that movie,
it's doing great.
It's doing great, and it's continuing to do great. And it's not slowing down just yet. And I feel like it's going to overtake Guardians of the Galaxy here shortly.
See, I think it will. I just wish I would have put. I wish I would have put Across the Spider-Verse and Guardians of the Galaxy top 3 and top 3.
Yeah, I wish Spider-Man. I should have put Spider-Man higher for sure. I definitely underestimated from the previous movie, I guess. But I mean, like, I'm even madder because I had it behind the Flash.
Oh, buddy, me too.
Which is suffering so bad.
I know. I was so confident.
That just crossed 100 million. And last week it was ranked 3rd, and this week it was 7.
Yeah.
So
no, I knew immediately. As soon as it came out, I was like, all right, didn't go the way I thought. I bet on the wrong pony or whatever.
I mean, we all expected it to do better than it's doing, that's for sure. Like, we all thought, at least that first weekend it was gonna really pull people in.
Yeah. Word of mouth has not been good.
It's not been good. And people are, it's not getting like a lot of revisits, it seems like. Like Elemental, which opened to disappointing numbers, is kind of going to catch up. I feel like it's going to overtake The Flash at the rate it's going. That's at 89, and you had that in your top 10 too. I did not.
I did, because I thought, okay, and I think I had it higher than Little Mermaid, but I think Little Mermaid's actually done really well.
Yeah, that is currently 3rd place.
Why don't before we confuse everyone? Do you want to go through the list real quick?
Let me do that real quick. Okay, so from the beginning of when we started our wager to this previous weekend with the release of Indiana Jones, the ranking currently is Guardians of the Galaxy at number 1, Spider-Man Across the Spider-Verse at number 2, The Little Mermaid at number 3, Fast X at number 4.
Wow.
Transformers: Rise of the Beasts right after that, and then The Flash, Elemental at 7, Indiana Jones opening up in 8th place right now, and then Asteroid City at 9 with a whopping $18 million.
That's crazy. So this summer, there's still a couple really big movies that are going to come out and really do a lot of shifting here.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, I had Fast X and Transformers as 9 and 10 in my list.
Yeah,
but we're about to get Mission Impossible, Oppenheimer, and Barbie. So that's 3 slots that we all had on our list, and then this coming Friday or today when you're listening to this podcast, Insidious, The Red Door.
I saw some projections that looks like they think it's going to do pretty good.
Yeah, those movies do make money. Yeah, I think we all did somewhere anyway. So I think it's that. Those are the last 3 major hitters. So wherever they land,
I tell you what,
I'm hoping they land after or ahead of Fast X and Transformers.
They will 100%.
I
put Barbie number 1. You know what I mean? If I remember correctly,
you did.
And I'm very confident, just because, man, it's got hype, dude.
It does have hype.
They want to see this movie.
If it's received well, it's going to have legs too.
Yeah.
That. Going to get repeat viewings. I mean, it's going to be weird. This back to back. You've got Oppenheimer, Mission Impossible, and Barbie all showing at the same time. Just kind of nuts.
That sounds like a fun weekend. You know what I mean?
Oh yeah, absolutely. Already planning on it.
Would you take your daughter to go see
Barbie?
I
think I have to see it. Yeah, right. This is what man does to one another. No, that's actually an R, so I couldn't take her. Really, technically,
you could.
Well, right.
If you're
a 5-year-old to an R rating, yeah, but
no, I don't recommend it. But I'm just saying, legally, you're her guardian.
Technically, you're right. You're right. Yeah.
Law against that.
No, I'm gonna see Barbie before I take her, and I severely doubt it'd be up her alley.
See, I'm thinking the colors will be exciting, but the story is gonna just go straight over the kids' heads.
Yeah, and the humor. Yeah. Lily questions me and Sarah when we laugh at a kid's movie. It's just why are you laughing? It's not funny.
What's the last kids movie you laughed at? And she was like, why?
Oh, what was it? We just watched this new animated film on Netflix called Nimona.
Uh-huh.
And it was fun, and Lily enjoyed it. She liked it a lot, in fact. But there was a lot of more adult humor It is geared towards kids for the most part. It's based off of a graphic novel, but yeah, there's some funny, more like adult, jokes in there. But it's a great movie too, by the way. Anybody needing a good Friday night family film, Nimona. We all really enjoyed it. So.
Nimona. Sorry, got it.
Pneumonia. No. So, what were we talking about?
The box office.
The box office, Barbie. Yeah. So, are you going to see Mission Impossible, Miguel? I'm curious. Do you think? I know it's not like your favorite.
Yeah. I mean, I assume we'll have to, right?
Yeah.
For the pod.
Maybe.
So.
Yeah.
Yeah, it just depends. Like, sometimes I'm like, okay, I got to tell Kristen, okay, hey, you got to watch The Boy because I'm going to go see a movie. But it's like, when it's a movie that I don't care about, I kind of feel like shit about it. You know what I mean? Like,
I get it. Yeah.
Yeah. Like, I didn't really want to go see Indiana Jones, like, in my heart and soul. It
wasn't like your...
And it was like late in the day that I realized, oh shit, I'm supposed to go see this movie.
Yeah.
And I'm glad, I'm glad I did. But
obviously.
But yeah, sometimes it's like, oh, okay, we're gonna see a movie that it's really more so like for Ed or for Luis,
It's for our audience, right?
Our listeners. That's
our
right.
Listeners. And talking about that is a good segue into our feature discussion of the week.
You should do this full time, honestly. Fuck Luis.
Clearly. Yeah, no.
He's not. It's you, baby.
I'm the zhuzh that's been missing all along.
That's right.
Yeah, so let me stumble drunkenly over here to Indiana Jones and the Dial of Destiny. Cue. I don't know if we're legally allowed to play the music, but I'll ask Luis. Too much editing. Yeah, the fifth and allegedly final Indiana Jones film came out, and it's proven somewhat divisive, I'm sure, to like hardcore Indiana fans. But Miguel, you're a late bloomer as far as Indiana Jones goes. So
and in puberty.
So what did you think about this movie about the most masculine of men?
So I think I first saw the first movie like just a couple of years ago. I think I've said this a few times on Scott White's podcast. We talked about for Dan Aykroyd's podcast. And I mean, I saw it for the first time and I was kind of blown away at how good it was. I was like, this is fun. I like this movie. Is it like my favorite movie in the world? Is this like a franchise I'm going to fall over myself to go see? No, but it's definitely fun. And then watching the second and third one, I was like, okay, this is where it's at. My first one, obviously, I've said before, my first one was Kingdom of Crystal Skull. So I was like, I don't get this. Like,
and that's my bad, everybody. That's my bad.
Thank you.
I got you to go along with that one.
But that's kind of a long roundabout way to say I did. So I am new to Indiana Jones relatively, and I had a great time watching this movie. I'm not a hardcore fan, so the things that I feel like like a hardcore Star Wars fan might complain about, I don't care. Like, I'm having a good time. This is great. I had a couple of really nitpicky things. But overall, like, I was like, this is pretty good. Maybe just this is common criticism for me. Maybe a little overlong, like just slightly. Okay, we could wrap this up. Yeah, but I mean, sometimes it's like 20, 30 minutes. You feel like you could cut, but I feel like it's 10 minutes. Take 10 minutes off this movie, and it breathes just a little bit more.
I mean, we'll get into it later, but yeah, that's definitely one of my criticisms. Is it just felt like it could have been shorter. There are some bits I would have cut out here and there. So yeah, so overall, you liked it. It was fun.
I did.
You didn't feel like you had completely wasted your time.
No. It was a good time. And it was like a pretty decent audience, but I do feel like I was the one doing a lot of the response.
The guffawing and the
dude,
cheering.
I didn't cheer, but I definitely laughed a couple times.
Sure.
And a couple times, like, I tried to myself. I was like, oh shit! Like there was like, oh,
yeah.
Like the action. I was thinking about it on the way home last night. I guess like I was really thinking there was going to be like this Disneyfication of Indiana Jones, you know, like where the action is like it's action, but like just kind of like
mild,
like kind of by the numbers, you know.
Sure.
And the opening scene, even I was reminded like, oh yeah, you know, like these Indiana Jones movies, like the violence is kind of intense, and I appreciated that they kept that that vibe.
Sure. Though they did slap that big old Disney castle right up front, didn't they?
They sure did, but they moved quickly. It moved on pretty quickly.
Yeah.
But no, I actually just like general overview thoughts. I really liked like the majority of the action set pieces. I really enjoyed. I thought it looked beautiful in a lot of scenes. And I don't know. I'm here for it. I don't really remember much about Kingdom of Crystal Skull. But I had a good time watching this one, and I don't remember feeling this way at the end of the other one. Oh, also, I was walking into the theater and I was behind someone getting their tickets, and they were like, the guy was like, "Well, what are you here to see?" or whatever, and they go, "Oh, we're seeing Dial of Destiny," and he goes, "Oh, yeah." He goes, "You know, it's better than the last one." That's what he said. It's better than the last one, and I was like, "Damn, I'm about to see this movie. Could you not like be pessimistic about it like right before I walk in?" You know?
Like
let me make my own
people
opinion.
Who are paying your wages, literally.
Yes. Like
enjoy the film.
If I want to hear your criticism, I'll listen to Punch Drunk Nerd on wherever I get my podcasts, okay?
Right.
I didn't come to the movie theater to get like bombarded with
critiques. That's all right. I'm trying to think back to when I worked at a movie
I saw it.
Did I definitely made jokes about depressing films. Like if people were going into Amour, I was like, oh yeah, that's a laugh riot. When it's about two old people on the verge of death. You know. But Hader, well that's frustrating.
Bill Hader tells the story, actor and director Bill Hader.
Yeah.
He tells a story about when he was in like a teenager, like early college, he was a ticket taker at a theater, and he was there when Titanic came out, and he said if people were rude in line or anything, he would spoil Titanic for them as they were going in to see it. He would be like, yeah, they die in the end. And I just appreciate it. I appreciate that.
Good for him. I mean, yeah, people can be shit. Don't be shit to other people, basically. Don't be a Nazi, which brings us back to Indiana Jones.
Much better. That was much better. Keep up the work.
Yeah.
I told you my thought. Ed, general thoughts. What did you think?
Okay, so yes. Overall, I thought it was entertaining. Like, I had a good time with it for the most part. Like, I was trying to avoid being, like, super nitpicky and just, like, trying to enjoy the ride, which is
that's good.
What Indiana Jones should be. You know, unsurprisingly, yeah, I don't think it does live up to, like, the original trilogy. And I feel like a lot of people are going to say that, and you know
that feels like lazy criticisms, though. You know what I mean? Like,
yeah, I mean,
live up to the original fucking
exactly. And we're also talking about like an action movie where its lead character is like in his 80s.
He's old.
So it's kind of first off, it's kind of like a miracle in itself.
Yeah.
Furthermore, it's like just like a different stage of where this character and also this actor is in their lives, you know. So the fact that, again, it's like an 80-year-old lead in this pretty entertaining action-adventure film, which you don't see a lot of, you know, it's just like, I enjoyed that. Like, that was, like, it was solid enough that I didn't walk away, like, angry. I think, good. Like, a lot of the problems that I had with it were basically come down to, like you said, I think there are some parts that definitely could have just been cut. And like one of the great things about Indiana Jones in the past is that it's always tight, like tight story, tight action. It just constantly moves, but without feeling sloppy. You know, it's just like you only get the information you need and let the rest like unfold as you go along. and this time it felt like there was a lot of like exposition moments.
Sure.
Just kind of either like catching up on character development and or like where are we going next kind of thing. But other than that, like, yes, I did have a good time with it. And I think for me, the biggest seller of this movie, in fact, was Harrison Ford. I felt what? Well, no, I know, but just like in a sense that like
he nailed it, is what you're saying.
He nailed it but like he felt like emotionally invested in the story. And like there are a couple of moments that I'm sure we'll talk about where I got like choked up a little bit just because of how he was portraying this character that we all, well, some of us grew up and loved. And it's like, I don't know, it's like kind of sombering. But
don't listen to this trash ass podcast, man. We're Garbo.
Let me make a poignant point, but I just was surprised at how much, and I guess genuinely appreciated. Like he wasn't just like cruising through it or whatever.
No.
It just felt like a personal story for him.
I was sitting there thinking during some of the scenes in the movie, like I don't know why, just right as he got off the horse, I remember thinking, man, I feel like he did Star Wars for a paycheck. They were like, we'll pay you a lot of money to come back and do this. And he's like, yeah, but I don't want to do this forever.
Like the recent ones.
Yeah. And I feel like he comes back to these Indiana Jones movies and seems to just be like, yeah, this is the character that he enjoys playing, you know?
But yeah, that he helped create.
Thinking, this doesn't feel this, even though they probably did pay him a lot of money to do this movie. I think it was like $20 million or something.
Yeah.
I have to feel, or at least I felt watching that wasn't what he was there for. You know what I mean? Like this is like, wow, he must like love this craft. There's like a little bit of joy in him. He gets portrayed as this like curmudgeon all the time, but it's like,
sure,
you don't get him to come back to do Indiana Jones just for the money. I think, you know what I mean? After this many movies.
Exactly, and this many years, like the fact that it's 15 years after the last one, basically, which is insane to think about. Because the conversations we're having about this one, we were having back then. It's like, why bring Indy back at this age, kind of thing? Can Harrison Ford do it still?
I gotta say, I am not an Indiana Jones like super fan or anything like that. But it rubs me the wrong way when people call him Indy. I hate it. I'm like, I think not just you. They did it in the movie a whole bunch, and I get that that's kind of like a what I don't know, not a nickname or whatever, but it's just like something that people have given him, you know. And to me, it just seems way too. It's like, I don't know you.
We all know him.
Indiana Jones.
Yeah, Indy. I mean, so many characters do refer to him as Indy.
They do. And I just feel like it's not my place. You know what I mean?
The only one who doesn't is his dad, and he just calls him Junior. Or as in Henry Jones Jr.
Right.
But nobody calls him Henry. And they tried to kind of instill that in Kingdom of the Crystal Skull. Like, oh, he's grown up now, so everybody calls him Henry. It's like, no.
We don't want that. No, I want him to be called Dr.
Indiana Jones. Yeah, and
I like that. Dr. Jones is classy, dude.
Yeah, but that, like, again, that only sounds good when it's coming from Short Round. You know what I mean? It's like, hey, lady, you call him Dr. Jones, and then he calls him Indy too. Oh, Short Round. Missed opportunity not having Ke Kwan in this movie.
I for sure thought he was coming in. Maybe he was in is there a post-credit scene? I didn't stay for the credits.
No, there isn't. No.
I just assumed right at the end, I was like, he's on a career high right now.
Yeah.
Like, just green screen him in. You know what I mean?
But they were already, oh man. There was so many moments where I just expected
at the end when he was like, you know, what did you bring me back for? And you feel like she's about to say, because I need you, Indiana Jones. And then they cut to the reveal that, you know, Marion is coming in. I half expected Ke Kwan to come in at that moment.
Oh man, that would have broken my heart. I thought that maybe, like, instead of fucking, I mean, as much as I love Sallah as a character, like, they could have had him, Ke Kwan, show up as Short Round as a cab driver in New York. That would have made so much sense. And he would have been younger, and he would have been able to partake on that adventure. Considering he's doing his own stunts anyway in other movies, you know what I mean? It's like, that would have been fun. That would have been great. See an older Short Round bouncing off of a much older Indy. So, whatever, it is what it is. That's one thing I was trying to come into this, is saying, like, what they should have done is this and that and this. Which is, like, I get it, like, and that's what all the internet is abuzz right now, doing that already. So I'll try and avoid that.
And see, I didn't feel that way at all when watching this movie. I was, again, such a loose fan of this franchise. I was just coming in going, this is great. I'm having a great time.
Which is probably the best way to enjoy it. I wish I could unburden myself with my expectations. But such as it is, like, I catch myself analyzing it. I feel like maybe the next time I'll just be more relaxed to see it, which I do. I kind of do want to just see it again. Because again, I didn't have a bad time with this film. That's the key thing. Like, I enjoyed it. I enjoyed myself for the most part. Were there moments where I was just like, ugh, or like eye rolls or whatever? Sure. But I think the overall, my overall takeaway was that it was fun and it was a nice salute. Could there have been a better one? Sure, maybe. Had Steven Spielberg come back, who knows what it could have been. Oh
man, I tell you what, Steven Spielberg coming back to direct like a final. Did he do Kingdom of Crystal Skull?
Yeah.
Well, then never mind. James Mangold did great.
Yeah. But it would have been nice for Steven to kind of
have one last one,
have that redemption. And with it being it just seems like an oddity that, him, John Williams coming back, why didn't Steven Spielberg come back just for this one last time? But I get it too. Like, maybe he's just past that point and just didn't want to put himself through it again. So, I don't know.
Well, now that we've done like some general overview,
yeah.
I want to talk about
spoilers.
Let's get into spoilers. Spoiler alert. We're talking.
Yeah, spoiler alert. We are gonna talk about some things.
Now, I did kind of spoil the ending, I guess, with her showing up, but that's my bad.
That's all right. Yeah,
I don't think that's like the worst thing I could spoil.
No, I think some people.
If you have half a brain and you watch the first, 20 minutes of the movie, you kind of see where it's going to go as far as her character coming back.
Yeah, absolutely. Let's get into
the one I really want to start talking about is right at the very beginning. I want to talk about the de-aging of Harrison Ford, and that really I want to talk not only just that, but the whole sequence. I want to talk about it because I had a great time watching.
Oh, really?
Yeah, I had a lot of fun. I hope you enjoyed it.
I did enjoy it for the most part. I guess like at first it was just an adjustment to the CGI, which I don't think was always like up to snuff.
Now that was
go ahead.
That was going to be one of my nitpicky things that I was going to say was I think a lot of the time they cover it in darkness just right.
Yeah.
But that the first time they take the hood off, because I remember in the trailer they show that where they take the hood off, and I remember thinking they've nailed it. That's exactly how you do it. They de-aged him. I believe that's young Harrison Ford.
Yeah.
But every now and then his dialogue, like it's like his eyes would lag or something. You know what I mean? It's like just uncanny
like
valley enough
to it.
Yeah. And so there was definitely a couple of moments, especially in that first reveal, that I thought, but I thought the rest of the scene I totally bought. Okay, this is like younger Harrison Ford. And I was
and it served the purpose. Yeah, it was very like Indiana Jones. It just kind of, it was him fumbling his way through a situation with the hope that it works. Like, I thought it was funny when he finally, made it onto the train, and he's trying to walk past these guards, or, just German soldiers, and they notice that he's got like some bullet holes in his uniform. Classic. That was fun. And overall, so I think like, and this goes for the whole movie, a lot of some of the issues that I had with the action is just obviously there's a lot of
old man doing the action.
An old man doing the action, I guess. And so there's a lot of close-ups, and not a lot of like wider
Sprawling,
shots.
whatever you like.
Yeah, so it just feels like more cutty and more. It puts more focus on the CGI. I feel like
in the opening, yeah.
In the opening and throughout the film, like we'll talk about the tuk-tuk chase in Tangiers. It's just like there's a lot of like, and I know that, and again, this is another thing that frustrates me is like when they're building up the hype for this movie, they're just like, oh, where we, as long as we were able to do practical effects, that's what we went for. But that leaves a lot of the movie where they did just fucking use CGI, and that's fine because you're using like again a 82-year-old man, doing all of this stuff. So yeah, you got to expect that. But it's at the same time, it's just like you have these expectations, especially with an Indiana Jones film on practical effects and stunts and stuff like that. So it's kind of marred by the frequent use of CGI either on the background or whatever. But overall, the pace and the tone of it, there were funny moments. You had like a main villain coming after you on the train. A lot of Nazis,
Oh, so
many Nazis.
When they got shot,
it was a lot of fun. Yeah. Oh man, you're just like, oh, great.
I want to get back to the train sequence for a second because I still want to talk about that. There's several key moments that I was having a good time watching. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, I did love the whole him sneaking around as a Nazi because I love how they committed, and I just assume this feels like so true to this character that he's not gonna like learn German to like infiltrate the Nazis. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like it's been like, no offense to Germans now today. I'm just saying like in that era or whatever. It's like it felt like it was beneath him. You know what I mean? Like, no, I'm the good guy. You're the bad guys, and I'm not gonna just like pretend beyond just like throwing on a hat or whatever.
Right.
I kind of appreciated that.
He'll know like ancient Latin.
Oh, but he's not. No, no, you're so fucking right, dude. When I didn't even put that together until you just said that just now. He has all this dialogue later that we'll talk about that I remember being like, wow, that's kind of crazy. Harrison Ford saying all these syllables in a row like this.
Yeah,
but he didn't. But Indiana Jones said, no,
German.
Fuck German.
Yeah.
Mm-mm.
Hey, he had a bad run with some Nazis, so I don't blame him. You can't blame him. Yeah.
But no, that bit where he almost succeeds in convincing them that he's German on the train. Yeah. Just a half step back. I loved the car and motorcycle chase in the beginning.
Oh, okay.
When he gets in the car and then the two like Nazi generals or whatever get in, they start barking at him to go. Yeah. And at the last second, he's like turning and looking at the train. And I just love that he's like, you know what, man? Like, I'm not here for you. I'm doing my own thing. Like, I don't have to pretend. I only have to pretend for as long as I want to, kind of deal, which kind of felt really badass. Like, he was just like, okay, hang on a second, I'm done with you. Crash into the wall with the other guy. And then he has this, like, he jumps out of the car onto the motorcycle, and then the car explodes. And then he's fighting the two Nazis. One gets thrown, and then he's fisticuffs with the other guy. And then he's like barely not getting shot by the machine gun. And then
that guy gets hit by a tree. Gets just on the way down.
Eaten by a tree. Dude.
Yeah.
And I was just like, that was when I was like, oh, like this is kind of violent, you know?
Yeah, totally.
And later when he's fighting Mads Mikkelsen on the train, or not quite fighting him, but Mads Mikkelsen is like holding them hostage by gunpoint.
Sure.
And then at the very last second, all of a sudden that whatever you call it, like that bar or whatever hits him. I was dead surprised the next time we saw Mads Mikkelsen, he didn't have a fucked up face. I thought for sure he was just going to be just torn up. And I got that
just
later,
had like a little scar somewhere, but yeah.
He always has a little scar. You know what I mean?
But yeah, no, that would have actually just cleared somebody's head off. But you know what?
They kept him around.
Yeah. It's like, we don't want to kill Mads.
And just to touch on it, and we'll talk about the scene, I guess, a little more later. But I liked later when Indiana Jones sees him again for the first time, and how he goes, you. And there's like this, he has this moment where he even says like, I don't remember who you are, but I remember your face, and I know that. You know what I mean? There's this context that I know you're bad.
Yeah, it's like, remind me, are you still a Nazi? Yeah. Like, I love that line. That's so good. That's
so good.
It's like this gradual, obviously in the last movie, the bad people were Russians, and so that was like, he was like, Russians. But like coming back to Nazis after these 5 films, it's just like, yeah, you get that weariness.
They are,
but also like still dealing with Russians. Yeah. So after the train sequence, like one sequence I was looking forward to,
man,
but I thought played really well was the moon landing parade in New York. I just loved the idea of Indiana Jones riding on a horse down that. It was
that to great. Me worked so beautifully. Yeah. I loved so many elements about that. I loved the fact that they were celebrating like space, because I love space.
Right.
And I was like, wow, this would be what it feels like. Everyone's like, I don't work today. Like all these kids are in his lecture, and you could tell they're like, God, I want to be anywhere else but here right now. And how he's got this kind of like, I don't care about space attitude, you know?
Yeah.
And it's like, this is like one of the greatest things that have ever happened to our country. And he's like, you know.
And then he rides past the astronauts on the limo.
I didn't even catch that. Yeah, that's totally.
Well, obviously they're just like actors playing the real.
No, of course,
guy. But it's just like it's the 3 astronauts on sitting on the back of that open limousine, and they just like make eye contact as he's riding past on his horse. It's just like,
oh man. What a great sequence from start to finish for me. I loved them sneaking into the college to try to capture oh god, I'm blanking on her name. Wombat.
Phoebe Waller-Bridge.
No, her,
Helena.
but the character Helena.
Yeah.
They were like kind of after her. And just that reveal of Indiana Jones being like, oh, wait a second, you're not being truthful to me. Like, there's something going on. You're hiding something. And I just liked, because I just kind of instantly fell in love with her character as soon as she started talking.
Awesome. I was about to ask you what you think of it.
I loved her. I thought she was great. And so the kind of reveal halfway through that scene that she's not really all she's saying she is,
Right.
Was kind of heartbreaking. And I kind of felt that for him too. Like, he has this kind of connection to her of, I had this really close friend, and you're his daughter, and he's passed, and this is the first time I'm seeing you in like 20 years, and you're not who I thought you were.
Right.
Like,
she's not this like earnest archaeologist. In fact, she's
two-faced.
Two-faced, yeah. But that brings me to something I read today. First off, I really enjoyed Phoebe Waller-Bridge too. I thought she was a lot of fun in this. And I thought she worked well for for the world of Indiana Jones, and also worked well, like bounced off well with Harrison Ford. And I was reading an interview listening to an interview with James Mangold about how he viewed the 2 characters as like Helena grew up with knowing Indiana Jones, along being friends with her father, but also just being around. And then obviously we get this flashback later on in the movie where the last night that they see, or she sees Indiana Jones, and then he kind of just like leaves her life. So kind of like, Mutt in Kingdom of the Crystal Skull, this is another character that Indiana Jones kind of just left out of his life, and didn't check up on until she came back into it. And so she's like obviously grown this defense, like this wall against any kind of parental figure. And so
they're all just gonna leave.
Yeah, and he's like throwing things like, oh, what would your father think? It's like, well, actually, her father kind of went mad over the Dial of Destiny and died when she was very young. And then you, the Godfather,
were never around.
You never showed up again. So she's like, obviously, she's a product of that. And I liked that kind of like edge to her. But also, obviously, deep down, she really cared. And that's the important thing. And that was the journey that both of these characters are going on. So I really enjoyed that. And also, if you haven't listened to Helena's theme on the soundtrack, this is for the audience, of the John Williams score, it's beautiful. It's really good.
That was not for me. Ed was like, no, I know who I'm talking to.
So yeah, I thought she was really fun. That sequence was really fun, like we were saying. It does bring me to one complaint with the movie was the whole kind of subplot with so obviously the Mads Mikkelsen character being a Nazi came over to the States at some point after he got hit by a fucking train post and survived. And he's like in the States working as like a rocket scientist and essentially helps get the United States to the moon, right? That's the gist of it. And I guess he has the help of the CIA or the FBI, whichever one it is, led by Shawnette Renee Wilson's character.
Sure.
That whole subplot it felt so unnecessary to me.
Well, I don't think it was really fleshed out. You know what I mean? I
agree. It didn't have enough to make it necessary.
I think there was something there because the way he had that conversation with the like the steward or whatever who comes and brings the food to the hotel room. And he asks him like, do you feel like you won, or do you feel like you get to revel in victory? And he's like bringing him like the help, essentially, just bringing him his food and serving the white man, And I think that's what I took from that, especially with the lady agent also being black. That okay, like he's definitely like playing on those themes of like the the African American who is deemed lesser in society, and like how do I bring them up out of that, and kind of playing to something that like speaks to them.
Sure.
But it just wasn't really fleshed out. It moved so quickly, and I feel like other than those two characters,
it would have worked better had she survived at least a little bit longer to be, or to at least feel of any consequence. Because really, it just felt like Mads Mikkelsen and his goons were chasing after Indiana Jones, and she just happened. I mean, ultimately, she happened to be there, and then was just a casualty of it. When we already knew these guys were bad, so it could have been more interesting if they'd kept her around and somehow she had circled around to the end.
She believes that she's doing something good. You know what I mean?
Exactly. Yeah,
she was sold a dream or something,
right? Or just like told like, hey, they're after this item. But Indiana Jones gets pulled in, and she's like, hang on, he's not a murderer. What's going on? Like, you guys are killing innocent people.
A lot of her dialogue, especially in that sequence, was like, hey, don't shoot people. We don't care. What are you doing? Don't do that. That's not what we're here for. And it did feel like she was told one thing, and it was clearly another,
Sure.
And that would be just to agree with what you were saying. I just don't think it was fully fleshed out.
Right. And so to that point, it's just like, did you need to have it in the first place? Like I said, if that character had circled or just like went through the whole story, whether she had died or not, it just felt too soon for her to have held any real significance by the end of it. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Because she didn't.
I mean, I will say this: I was surprised when they killed her. You know what I mean?
Me too. That's why. Even more so. I was just
maybe that's what they were going for, was misdirection. That you think, oh, she's right, like she's gonna realize she's on the wrong team, and she'll do something that will like either purposefully or inadvertently help Indiana Jones. But instead, it was just no, you picked the wrong horse, and
and like you said, dead. Maybe it was something that was more developed and just kind of ended up on the cutting room floor. I don't know, but that was one thing that stuck out to me about that whole New York sequence. Talking about like characters who maybe just didn't need to be in there. What did you think about Antonio Banderas'
brother? Okay, so first off, I remember seeing a clip where they talked about Antonio Banderas being in the movie, and how Phoebe Waller-Bridge was like how he would do the Puss in Boots character just like on the spot or whatever, which is like, okay, that's just Antonio Banderas. Well, he like throw a meow in every now and then. But I remember watching that clip. I mean, like just a week before I saw this movie, and I completely forgot he was in it.
He was in it.
The moment that Indiana Jones shows up to the boat, and he's like, "I've got this old friend," and we've already seen a couple of like old friends. So I'm like, "Oh, who's it gonna be?" I barely watch these movies, but I bet I recognize these other faces. I'll know who this is. He shows up. He says, "You know, fucking hola," or whatever he says to the guy. I could not even told you that was Antonio Banderas in that moment. It wasn't until the very next day, like in the daytime when they were about to go diving, I was like, that motherfucking Antonio Banderas?
Yeah.
God bless, dude. I had no idea that was him. And again, he was in it for so little. I just expected him to, I don't know why, be in it.
I mean,
you know?
That role could have gone to anybody, honestly. It was just like, oh, Antonio Banderas was on the lot on the day or whatever. That's what it felt like, because you just didn't feel like 1 second Mads Mikkelsen shot him in the leg and you're like, oh no, he's already using a cane, don't do that. And then he just fucking kills the guy and that's it.
And it was done. And I did appreciate the moment shortly after where she's like kind of reveling in the fact that they got away from them in that moment. Yeah. And he goes, my friend just died. And I think that to me, just now thinking about it, isn't to your point about how Harrison Ford was kind of playing this character. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
I felt for him in that moment. Now, I didn't, obviously, as soon as I realized it was Antonio Banderas, I was like, he was not in any of these other movies. This is like just for this, we've all of a sudden are developing a relationship. But I felt it in the moment when he lost him. You know, I thought that was good. And I like that he kind of put them in their place. It was like, you know, hey, you know, that was someone I cared about.
Yeah, this wasn't like a complete win kind of thing. Yeah.
But if we're going to talk Antonio Banderas, can we just talk about this sequence real quick? We might as well. The whole boat sequence. Just basically from the time they got on the boat to the time they got off that boat. I want to talk about that because I want to say... We did
skip over Tangiers, which I do want to go back to.
Can we circle... Let's circle back to Tangiers because I definitely want to talk about that one too, okay?
Yeah, right.
But we're at the boat. So I was doing great, Ed. Man, I got through that entire first half of that movie and I was like, I don't need to go to the bathroom. And then all of a sudden I had to pee. So I got up and I went and I tried to do it just lickety split. I was like, oh, they're at the boat. Okay, they're about to get into the next sequence. I better hurry and do it at the beginning, you know?
Right, yeah.
When I came back, him and Helena, excuse me, were having like kind of an intimate chat.
Yeah.
And I think I totally missed this. I had to put it together with context clues based on like the last thing he says to her. Like I was walking in as he was kind of, I guess, telling her why him and Marion were getting divorced.
Yeah.
Did Shia LaBeouf's character die?
Yes.
Okay. I missed that reveal, and I forget how he said it, but there was like the last line or two of that scene was when I was coming in, and he mentioned something about she just couldn't take the loss or whatever, and I was like, huh? And then I was like, that's why we're not even talking about Shia LaBeouf. I bet his character died somehow off screen. Yeah. And then later Mads Mikkelsen or someone says it again, and I'm like, oh, okay, that is for sure what they were talking about.
Yeah, they imply that Mutt, Shia LaBeouf's character, he enlisted for the war at some point and got killed in the process.
In action.
I guess it had to have been the Korean War, maybe. But and like there was like a kind of like a joke, like, oh, well, my son, he did it to piss him off, kind of thing. But like, yes, because of the loss of Mutt, that Marion couldn't cope, and he in Indiana Jones couldn't be what she needed to grieve. Yeah. And so that's why they were splitting up. So, and that's one of those moments I was talking about where I just felt Harrison Ford's
was
passion.
Kind of nailing
just
it.
Like, he was just like one of those emotional moments. And, but I understand why you left, because there was just leading up to that. It felt like exposition.
A lull. Yeah.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
So when I came back and I realized I was missing kind of an important piece of information.
Right.
I was like, oh, it's kind of a bummer, but I get the sense of what he was saying.
Because she asks him, like, what would you do with the dial? And he was saying, like, stop my son from enlisting, kind of thing.
Oh, man.
So yeah, no.
What a tender moment. I'm kind of bummed I missed that now.
Yeah,
but thank you for telling me.
Yeah. Well, that's definitely, like I said, one of the more like poignant through lines of the film is just like, and again, what makes the ending that much more, I guess heartwarming, but also kind of sad. But yeah. So, but you got to caught the whole you caught the whole diving sequence, and
I came back basically just in time for that to get started.
Yeah.
And that was a ton of fun.
Again, all that to say that Antonio Banderas maybe just didn't need to be in this film. And that's like one of those things they could have cut out, I feel like. But prior to this,
like the dive sequence in general,
maybe kind of almost.
I liked the justification for it, though. I liked how it showcased her knowledge of the dial and how.
Oh no, I liked that sequence. I mean, just kind of like as a whole, just like that interlude could have been cut down maybe a little bit, but I don't know. But yeah, the meetup in Tangiers.
Let's get to it.
Yeah, so they meet up in this hotel, and that's where we meet Helena and new short round.
Mm-hmm.
Who? Sorry, I'm blanking, but let me pull it up. I got it right here.
I was watching as that movie went on, and that kid kept sticking around.
Teddy.
I was like, so this is just straight up Indiana Jones. And this is new Indiana Jones. You know what I mean?
Short round, right?
Exactly.
Yeah. So, there's this fun little back and forth about the dial. She's trying to pawn it off or sell it off at this place, which I thought was a fun introduction to the character. There's that like back and forth between Indy and Mads Mikkelsen and her about like who stole what, like when. And then it goes into this tuk-tuk chase sequence, which...
So abruptly daytime, by the way. It's like,
absolutely.
It was like they were holding this auction at like 4:59 a.m. And 35 minutes later, the sun was up. I was like, oh, okay.
I was wondering that. I was like, this sequence in the trailers takes place in sunlight, so... This is going to be a quick transition or something.
I'm trying to remember. There's definitely a moment in like The Dark Knight or something. It's like one of the Christopher Nolan Batman movies where all of a sudden it's like, oh, it's nighttime. Okay. Because that fucking happened pretty quick.
Yeah.
But so let me ask you, you kind of prefaced earlier, did you not like this sequence?
So I was mixed, honestly. I was excited because it felt like the energy was like Indiana Jonesy, but again, it was just like the CGI of it all and the close-ups. I just like it felt so choppy that I couldn't even enjoy some chunks of it. There was some moments I thought were really cool, and I thought like, oh yeah, this is. But it felt like it went on maybe a little too long.
Yes,
and there was a lot of CGI. Like you didn't believe the physicality of these cars.
Wow,
going through these small alleyways and stuff.
I want to follow up on this because I personally, really, the only time I ever noticed a CGI issue was the opening scene, the de-aging. I really didn't ever feel like there was an issue with the CGI. Maybe I was just having a good time and I was kind of bought into it at the point.
And maybe I was just overthinking it.
Because I was going to ask you, like, do you have like a couple of references, like specifically where the CGI didn't look good?
So like there would be moments where they were, they like just cut to these close-ups constantly, where it's just like, okay, they're just kind of like in a still motion vehicle with CGI going on in the background.
Okay, so maybe like inside the car, like Mads Mikkelsen's car, but also, or something like that.
So like in the wider shots when like they have like the car that's carrying Mads Mikkelsen and the other guys just like whizzing around tight corners and tight alleyways, and it just feels like it just looks like a CGI car just like swinging around. There's no like intensity or contact.
Okay,
you know what I mean?
I understand the criticism. I'm kind of surprised because I didn't feel that when I watched that scene.
Oh, really? And again, I know I was overanalyzing this whole movie, but it was just one of those things that they didn't like ruin it for me, because again, I was so caught up with the energy, like it felt like Indiana Jones for the most part. But like I said, it did feel a little like it went on too long.
I wanted to talk about that also. Those are the 2 points you said that I wanted to talk about. Definitely, by the time we got to the tuk-tuk chase, I was like, we've done a lot of chases, you know? Yeah. It's like, okay, here's another one, and now we're in a new location, and that's fine, but it did feel a little repetitive. So those were kind of like my couple of nitpicky critiques, was just like, okay, we're kind of doing this again.
Right.
I love that we're traveling and we're going someplace new. I would have liked just a little bit of variety in the action, especially because I just thought the first two were so good. By the time we did it a third time, I was like, oh, okay.
They are like literally chase sequences, though, right? You know, they're just like he's chasing the train in the first one, and they're chasing him in the second
on the horse.
One. So yeah, no, I mean it really is kind of like that. So yeah, you're right. So some brevity probably would have helped it, but whatever. It did feel like an Indiana Jones sequence. There was one bit where they turn a corner and there's like this, I don't know, this truck carrying like bamboo sticks. One of the bad guys chasing them, and he goes right into it, like real hard.
So good. I will say those moments in the film, because there's a couple, I felt like I felt that impact. I was like, oof, that would hurt.
And credit to James Mangold, I guess. Like and that's why I felt so confident with him taking on this. Like, there's not many directors I'd be like, oh yeah, he could direct an Indiana Jones film.
I remember hearing criticisms about it on Twitter or whatever about James Mangold, but I just didn't think at all that, this is bad, or he fumbled it, or this was, I was like, this is a very competent movie.
Yeah, like, well, and like you were saying earlier, it looks good.
Yeah.
Like, visually, it feels like the original films, you know what I mean? Like the cinematography and everything. So I think he knew what he was doing for sure. And I think he was just making the best of the circumstances, which is that your hero is 82 years old.
Yeah.
So I take it all in stride. But
talking about that, there really was only a couple of times that I thought, there's the age, you know? Like, he dismounted that horse with just, I was blown away how quickly he did that. And I was like, there has to be like a CGI. This is something like a body model is doing it with his face on him or something, because it was so fluid. And I remember when Scorsese was doing The Irishman, one of the things that he was talking about was how, like, having to direct all these old men to be like, hey, remember, you're like actually 30 years younger. You know,
so when
when Al Pacino stands up from the chair, he goes, you know, can someone tell Al Pacino he's got to stand up a little bit quicker, you know? And that's what I was expecting in this movie, but there was really only a couple of moments, like kind of when they were running through, I guess, like the cave or whatever.
Yeah.
There was a couple moments where like he was trotting along, and I was like, all right.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's kind of
tough
to do.
But again, like, they're embracing that, I feel like.
Yeah. At the right moments, they do.
And like, for instance, at the end, not to like jump to the very, like, literally the end credits, but so, you know, at the end credits when the Indiana Jones theme kicks on,
sure,
the whole end credits plays out at a much slower tempo than what the Raiders March plays at.
That's cool.
And I think that's
purposeful.
Deliberate, right? Yeah. And I appreciate it, and listening to it back over again after the film, I was just like, yeah, that's definitely like
that's cool. See,
that's fine, and I enjoyed that kind of touch.
That's why I can appreciate when you start talking about scores and stuff, because I just don't have the ear for that. Like, sure. I can tell you it's the Indiana Jones, but like in the moment, I'm not sitting there going, oh, it's a little bit slower. You know what I mean? Like, they're telling a story. You know what I mean? In the music, and sometimes I don't always pick up on that. So I appreciate when you do that. You know what I mean?
Just looking out for you, baby.
You're my guy. Guy. But quick little side note. Did I tell you that I was listening to, you made that playlist for me of all the scores. I was listening to that on the plane last week, and I'm gonna do it again this week.
Oh, okay. Fuck yeah. What are your first thoughts?
I was listening to it just like straight from the beginning. Like I didn't shuffle it because I felt like you were purposeful in how you put things.
Very much so.
And I ended up, I only got a few in. I'm sorry, I didn't do it the whole.
It's
2
a
hours.
long playlist, as it turns out.
but when that Game of Thrones one comes on, where where they blow up the Sept.
Yeah,
you know what I mean. I was listening to that, and there was a point on the plane where I was like, "Damn, this song is still going," and I was just sitting there going, "Man, this sequence is so good."
Good.
So I was really glad that you put that on.
Yeah,
the playlist.
it's like almost 10 minutes long, I think. In its
entirety. I think absolutely, and it's worth every little bit. And because the thing is, like towards the end when it was like really building in my head, I was like, "Oh, I can see it. I know exactly where we are."
Exactly. Because it goes from piano to like organ. It's like
I'm like getting like the wind sucked out of me just thinking about it, you know?
Yeah, absolutely.
So no, anyway, sorry, just to comment that Ed's got a good ear. Literally only one good one.
One good ear, but I try.
It works.
Yeah.
That one works.
So we were jumping ahead to the end.
Well, would you have any other thoughts about 10 Jews? Did you want to wrap that one up?
Other than that, I did feel like it ran a little long. I loved the scene in the hotel. I thought that was cool. It just ran a little long. The CG was a little touchy, but I just feel like that's the whole movie. And then, I guess really that's it. And then we make 2 more jumps. We go to Greece for the diving, and then to Sicily. And there was like after they get the tablet, I did feel like, okay, they just went to this one place only for what's his face, the kid, to get kidnapped, and now we're going to another place, kind of thing. Like the dynamite scene on the boat seemed to stop the bad guys absolutely not at all, kind of thing. You know what I mean?
Which surprised me. You know,
right?
What I mean?
They were just like already caught up to them, and it wasn't a big deal, kind of thing. So whatever. And then they go into the tomb of Archimedes.
Yeah,
is that right? Yeah. No.
The kid gets kidnapped. Yeah, he gets
right?
kidnapped.
Yeah. And,
you're thinking of the name. Okay, good.
Yeah. And then it's the big twist, which again, spoilers, everybody. They do use the dial to go back in time. And leading up to this point, they were talking about going back in time to the beginning of World War II. And as it turns out, they're trying to kill Hitler. But instead, they go back even further to, I guess, ancient Greece, ancient Rome.
Loved that reveal. I loved the justification of it, too, when he was just like, oh, this like the continental drift is what he was talking about, and how like that was not even that was not even a thing when he put that together. And I liked how that showed kind of how smart and kind of on the fly Indiana Jones can be. Yeah. Can we, before we jump through the portal, can we just take a step back just real quick?
Yeah.
Excuse me. I think I have a little crush on Phoebe Waller-Bridge. Okay, so that's a little bit of what
impression from your text.
A little bit of what it is. But I thought she was so badass, dude, when she hopped on that bike, catching up to that plane, dude. Yeah. It felt like a Batman sequence or something, dude. It just felt like, whoa, okay, like this is action for me. Like I'm in it. I loved that it was dark and raining and the thunderstorm, and then this plane is like, just who knows, it's gonna take off any second, and she, every time she almost gets hit by a propeller, or she just barely misses. I'm on the edge of my seat going like, is she gonna make it? All while the what's the short round character? The kid. Teddy, I like how they set up, okay, he's into planes, but he's never flown one. And here he is, you're kind of like, is he going to get this plane to go? And he does. You know what I mean? And he's like right on the tail as well.
Yeah.
And I just felt like of all of the chase sequences in this movie,
this was kind of cool.
I liked this one because it was short to the point.
Yeah.
And it immediately, you felt like, first off, when her and Teddy split off, I immediately felt like, oh no, like this is, you can't just like text him and be like, all right, I'm going to get on the plane now, so follow me. You know what I mean? You got to hope. And she even goes like, oh shit, like he just left. Like I'm not going to be able to. And to that, she also goes, but I got to go. So I'm just going to go after this plane, and he'll either catch up or I'll figure that out later, you know?
Right.
And it just like adds to the urgency of the scene, you know?
And they don't know where they're going. Like they don't know they're about to go through this portal, for lack of a better word.
No.
And yeah, no. So yeah, they go. Oh yeah, I love that whole build up to that, and she kind of like hits the bomb release on the plane.
Oh yeah.
And all those Nazis just fall through the floor.
Yeah.
And there's that one guy hanging. And you know, it's just like, and you get where she's coming from. She's like, sorry, buddy, but you are a Nazi.
So,
like, meaning that she's going to let him fall.
You're just going to have to die.
You made your life choices kind of thing.
Yeah.
Like, I love that. That was a really nice touch. And
I really thought
anybody who hasn't seen Fleabag, they should absolutely check out Fleabag.
I'm down.
She's so good in that.
Just the way she was so quick with all of her retorts. And obviously I know that's just like scripts, you know what I mean? It's like they told her what to say, but just like her energy was like, she was always right on the line, the tail end of the other person's line. Like,
she's a writer too.
She gets that rhythm, you know what I mean?
Yeah, absolutely. And she's also, I don't think they're married, but she's dating Martin McDonagh of The Banshees of Inisherin.
No fucking way.
Yeah.
Good for them. Good for them.
Good writers. They know their quippy dialogue.
I will say this, just quick side note. There was a brief moment in time where her and Donald Glover were going to do Mr. and Mrs. Smith spin-off.
Oh, yeah.
Not spin-off, but they were like an adaptation of that story.
Or something?
Yeah. And I remember thinking, oh, that's intriguing. When it first got announced, I was like, that kind of makes sense because she's very popular right now and he's also very popular, and that's kind of like a franchise that's cooled a little, so they could revitalize it. So it, like the formula was there, it all made sense, and then it went away, and I was like, oh, okay, well, yeah, that happens. But after watching this movie with her, I was like, I totally see why they thought she could do something like that. You know?
Yeah.
Like she's not only very like witty and charismatic, but she seems to like hold her own on screen, on action.
Yeah, totally. Well, this is like the first thing I've really seen her in outside of Fleabag. Like, she may have done some other things, but like this is her like big kind of high profile thing.
I immediately want her to be in everything. I mean, which I was thinking at the end of the movie. I was like, I could see them overdoing it with her. Like, okay,
totally.
So, but I would love, for those right projects to come along because I think she really suits
that. Yeah,
yeah.
Well, people, of course, have been and are divided on that character and her portrayal. They're just like, oh, well, they just had a woman take over Indiana Jones's role. It's like, that's not really what happened at all.
That's not really what happened.
And and some people found her like sharp wit and like sass.
Let me guess,
annoying.
Like overly feminist or whatever.
Yeah, and also
Come
like
on.
they saying she was an asshole. It's like, well, that's just called like a character arc. You know, you're just like, you go, because she's, like I was explaining earlier, she was, like, betrayed by her father and her godfather.
Does she have a wall up? You know what I mean?
Yeah, exactly. She's kind of had to fend for herself and doesn't trust anybody apart from this kid. Like, so yeah, that's natural. But they break those barriers down, you know, and...
I will say this. Can I tell you the one part that I thought, she's kind of an asshole? Can I tell you?
Okay, yeah.
Was when they go to Sicily or whatever. Like, okay, so first off, they have her and the boy Teddy. Basically, since Indiana Jones showed up for the tuk-tuk scene, they have just been on the run. Yeah. And I mean, they've dived in the ocean. They're flying on planes. They're being held hostage. They barely make it to Sicily, and he's sitting there looking around. And I'm like, damn, this poor kid, like they put a hat on him, but other than that hat, this poor kid has been wearing the same shirt, these same pants, you know what I mean? You know when you like wear clothes over and over again, and you're like, I don't smell good. Like I know I don't smell good. You know.
And then she comes out in a new outfit.
She comes out and she goes, "Don't I look good?" I was like, "You bitch." Okay, like
I didn't even think about that because yes, she does look good in that.
Baby, I know. But but for a half second, and she brings him food, so that made me go, well, okay, she fed him. Okay, that's nice. She fed him because as a dad, I'm like, well, what's this kid eating? You know what I mean? Like, who's taking care of this kid?
And then he's getting taunted by this rich white American kid or whatever.
Yeah. So when she comes in and she's like, "Don't I look good in my brand new clothes?" And I'm like, oh, okay, well, he's got swamp ass for the last 3 days, but I guess no, you get a new shirt. That's good. You didn't want to throw one in for him.
Let me put this kid in mortal peril.
But I'll also end up on a magazine, so it's okay.
Exactly, right.
No, that was the only time. I was like, oh, that's kind of rude, but okay. Maybe that's just me.
Again, you're just like, okay, it's character motivated. Like, she's not portraying Indiana Jones because she's a jerk. She's just watching out for herself. I think that's like what they're trying to put on that character. And for the most part, I think it works. Like, and at no point did I think like, oh, she's taking up the mantle. No, she's just her own. She's her own separate thing. I
could see why, without even watching the movie, you could make that assumption because I feel like that's what they were trying to do with Shia LaBeouf in the last movie.
Yeah, absolutely.
Indiana Jones can't be here forever, and we're so accustomed to this like never-ending franchise that someone has to pass the baton, someone else has to be it, and I feel like people are jaded by that, and I could see why someone would be like, I don't like that direction.
Right.
But if you just go see the movie, that's not what's happening.
You'll see that it's not it at all, No. And like they may have like joked about that in the previous movie with Shia LaBeouf, in that regard. Yeah. But it was always just like, no, it was always Harrison Ford kind of thing. And they knew that. And it is like that kind of fanboy feeling where you're just like, no, this is mine, it's precious. But let's go back to that twist of them going back in time.
So the portal, sorry. There was so much more that I wanted to talk about before the portal.
Sorry. No, what else was there?
No, I wanted to
go through the tomb. I do love those moments where obviously the Indy theme kicks in.
The classic.
And there's like, they're in that tomb and he pulls out the gun and it's suddenly and then he gets fucking shot. Which I'm going to full circle because I want to talk about the twist and then something that occurred to me after the film and then was kind of discredited.
Okay.
Big
Can't wait. Took me on a journey just in that sentence.
But I did enjoy like a good old like tomb grave digging or whatever you want to call it.
I thought it was fun. There was definitely a couple moments there that I really enjoyed. The one being like when they solve the water puzzle or whatever. And they get in the lake and they do this kind of bit where there's like some sound happens and they both look up. It's like, oh, something's coming from above. And then they immediately, the floor falls out from under them and they fall. It was like a misdirection, and it just seems like, of course the floor would do that. Absolutely. But I just loved that. Me as the audience member, I was like, what's up there? What are they looking at?
What's coming down?
And so then when they immediately cut to that shot and then they fall underneath, I was like, oh, that was fun. I really enjoyed that.
No, I love that kind of Tomb Raider vibe. Just going through the trials or whatever.
And then two quick points in the diving scene when they reference, okay, he doesn't like snakes and how they were like eels. I kind of giggled to myself, eels, and then the kid being like, and they look like snakes too, and he was like, shut up, no, they fucking don't. But then so it's kind of like oh haha. But then when they go to the tomb, and then there's that like it's just like such a classic. You know what I mean? Oh, they shine the light and there's bugs everywhere, and then they're creepy crawlies, and
you had to have it, absolutely.
Yeah. It just felt, I don't know, it just felt right.
Yeah,
and I was having a good time in that scene.
And then, like when they reveal the grave of the skeleton of Archimedes, he's wearing that watch,
and and the propeller too.
Yeah, and I was just like, oh shit, okay.
I thought that was cool.
It's going to be interesting. And then they make it clear that it's Mads Mikkelsen's watch later on. So
I felt like I was watching a Christopher Nolan movie all of a sudden. I was like, oh, Oh,
right. It's just like all these twists and turns.
I actually had just watched Interstellar earlier that morning. You know what I
mean? Good. Yeah.
I was like, wow, okay.
Can you imagine if Chris Nolan directed an Indiana Jones film?
You know, I don't think it would be good. I don't think it would be.
I think a certain je ne sais quoi.
Yeah, I definitely think a Christopher Nolan Indiana Jones movie would be like technically awesome.
Yeah.
Is someone breaking into your home right now, Ed?
The shadows were fucking with me. It was just me, though. Sorry.
Are you high right now?
I hope.
But anyway, let's get to this portal. Wait, one more thing I want to talk about in the tomb.
Yeah.
So I was looking at my watch and I kept going, my phone, not my watch. I was looking at my clock and I just kept going, okay, this is a 2.5 hour long movie. And I was trying to think about like, okay, where are we act wise? Like I'm pretty good about nailing act 1, 2, and 3 in a story.
Right. Yeah.
And I was like, okay, we're just getting to the end of act 2. The Mads Mikkelsen character is about to get the dial and there's going to be a fake out where, he's got the power and then he won't by the end of it. So I was like, okay, I see where we're going in the story. So when he shows up in the tomb, I was like, okay, here we go. We're doing this bit. But I loved the like juggernaut henchman that he had, that like big ass dude, that Gronk looking motherfucker.
Every Indiana Jones film has to have one.
Dude, he was so believable though. I didn't ever think like you're comically large. I was like, oh yeah, I could see you being this big.
Just like,
and I loved when
I did think it was funny that he had like just this perfectly cut Hawaiian shirt that just looked so good on him. But
yeah, he went to the same tailor as Dwayne Johnson.
Yeah,
but
in the 60s or whenever, yeah.
I just loved how he was this, big train of a man, and how he was very formidable at every scene he was in, and who gets the better of him? Teddy. You know what I mean? And what a moment too! Like when they get drugged under the water, and he barely like gets on the other side of that cage. I was thinking, oh, okay, yeah, he'll pull the key out and he'll free himself, and then you're just like, oh, okay, at least he's away. He's free. But when he is it the shadows again?
Yeah. Sarah was outside.
Is that what's going on?
Yeah, I didn't see you go out.
Catch your fucking breath, dude.
Scared the shit out of me. Whew. All right, sorry.
When he drowns that big ass dude, though, I was like, that's badass.
Murder.
Just and the way it's okay. I half expected this big, strong dude to break the chain at the last second, but I love that there was like this fear in him.
Yeah,
like he invoked this fear every time he was on screen. Like I mean, there were times when he was just lifting people up and crushing them. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And you're like, dude, I would not want to go head to head with this guy. And then in this last second of his life, he's like screaming. You know what I mean? And I was like, oh, okay, good. You should die. Fuck you. You know what I mean? And I'm glad he got the better of them.
Yeah.
That was a good moment for me.
That was a cool moment. I did enjoy that. Like, good for the kid. Smart thinking, you know what I mean? It's just like, whew. Sorry, my heart is still pounding from that.
It's hilarious. And people, you can go to our YouTube at Punch Drunk Nerd, but it's just like all of a sudden you weren't looking at anywhere near this direction, and I was like, okay, what is going on? Like, I know sometimes Sarah walks by and it's like, okay, like Forrest walked by earlier, and I was having a whole. But you had this look of fear. Like I was like, what is happening?
Yeah,
right now,
it's just like you could see the light streaming through my backdoor windows. And all I saw was just like the shadow of a head coming towards the door. And the door was about to open. I was like...
I like that you had...
Sarah, I just don't remember seeing Sarah go out there. So that just freaked me out.
That's good. I like that you had your own like cinematic adventure right here on this podcast, you know?
About to get murdered. What could you have done?
You know what? A little macabre, but sometimes I think about that because we're a remote podcast. You know what I mean? Could you just imagine if at any point I was like, "Who the fuck are you? Get out of my house!" You know?
And we're just like, Miguel.
Like, would you pause or would you be like, "Well, let's let him handle"?
Just be like, tune into YouTube to see what happened at Miguel's house.
I know. I for real. I had that to that point. I did for real have something like that happen on the podcast one time. I remember like the AC blew like the hallway door open or something, and I heard it creak. And I knew that Kristen and Forrest were in my bed in my room. And so I thought someone was coming in that, or maybe it was the front door or something. It was one of the doors. Yeah. And I just remember thinking, oh my God, someone's in the house. I need to get up right now. But so, you know what? You do you, baby. You do whatever you got to do.
Yes. Yeah.
And what an adventure for our listeners.
Exactly. Yeah. Again, look it up on YouTube to see me shitting myself.
I like that we were like, this is going to be a quick, tight podcast. It's not going to be that long.
Yeah, here we are.
It's like, and we just, what time is it?
We're an hour and 21.
We'll wrap up. Let's wrap up. Let's talk about this. You want to keep talking about this portal? I want to talk about this portal.
Just because this is a good moment. Is going to divide people. I get it. Okay, so yes, they go through this portal, realizing too late that his calculations are, and that whole build-up is really great. It's just like, are they going to pull out of it? Are they actually going to go back in time? And where are they going to go to?
Well, what blew my mind is Indiana Jones kept telling him, oh, your calculations are incorrect. You fucked up. You did it wrong. But then they kept looking at the sky, and I'd be like, well, no, that's definitely a portal, though. So they're half right.
When they get through, they think, like, oh, we did do it. Like, that's 1939 Sicily or whatever. And but then very quickly you realize like they've got like these Roman triremes shooting at these walls, and you've got these catapults firing back, and
also shout out to the average listener. If you can tell us what a trireme is on our social media, I don't know. Don't tell me yet. I don't know what that means. The words you just said. So someone could educate me. Trireme.
Yeah, tag us and we will.
I'll share that.
Yeah, we'll share that. We'll
tell me what you think a trireme is.
I'm curious. What do you think it is?
Me?
Yeah, no one say.
I mean, I don't know. I watched the movie, so it's like in the context. I kind of understand what you're saying. It's like a spear, or it's one of those like catapult things, or it's a fucking trireme. I don't know, like one of those things with the spiky ball on a stick. I don't know what a trireme is.
Yeah.
You say you say Tyree. I'm immediately saying Tyrese. That's where I'm going. Okay, right. I'm the R&B singer from Fast and Furious.
So basically, there's like this whole battle going on, and it's like where Archimedes decided to break the dial, I guess, before the Romans could take it. So Indiana Jones and the Nazis are flung into this scene. So with that as it is, like, what was your initial reaction to that? Like, when they actually stepped back through time, and that's where they ended up. Because I was conflicted. I'll be honest.
I thought it was clear that they were wrong as soon as they went through the portal.
Yeah,
I was like, okay, they are so confident that they nailed it. Like, I mean, Mads Mikkelsen even says at one point, "I did it," or something like that. Yeah. And I was like, no, obviously the reveal is about to happen that you fucked up.
Yeah.
I tell you what, the thing that really stuck with me the most was when they make the revelation that it's not this like time traveling device. It's like a beacon to this one specific moment in time.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
And that I was like, okay. I was like, okay, all right. I didn't know how I felt about that one moment.
And I feel like there was kind of like some prelude to that. Like they had mentioned, like they had talked about when he had died, and like when the Romans had sacked that city wherever they were. So I feel like if I go back and rewatch it, maybe
they were kind of hinting at it better.
Light. Yeah. Like why it was that specific moment, and not just like day in the life. For like Indiana Jones as a whole, I thought it was still very bold, and that I'm talking about. We've seen aliens, we've seen ghosts, like crusade ghosts, or like I don't know, just undead people. You've had melting faces from the power of God, and so it's always like a suspension of disbelief, but It was just like a bold swing, absolutely, and I appreciated that. And then it goes into this like really kind of emotional take of Indy having been injured, kind of just being like, I want to stay here, kind of thing. And I think Harrison Ford plays that bit so well.
I loved it.
I just like that the archaeologist is back in time with one of his like heroes or icons or whatever.
And his life is over, as far as not just like being like wounded, right? But like you know, he's the love of his life, and his son, and I don't work anymore, basically,
and a goddaughter who he feels like just doesn't care, kind of thing, and you get it. This is one thing where, that was great, and then she punches him, and I thought that was a great kind of touch. However, when I left the movie at that moment, I thought, did he, after being shot and they were on the plane and maybe approaching that storm, did he dream everything that happened through the portal? And I realized like there are too many things that kind of cancel that out. But
like the ending of the movie.
Like the ending of the movie for the, but like the fact that he woke up in his apartment and had a bandage, like she could have just like taken him home, and the kid could have saved them or whatever. And the calculations that the Nazis did was fucked up, and like Indy passed out whenever they fell out the plane, kind of thing. You know what I mean? And it just didn't work, and the Nazis just crashed in the plane. I don't know, and that probably would have been way too grounded for an Indiana Jones film. So, but also, like, you had the watch on the Archimedes corpse and all the other stuff. So, and they, like you said, they talk about it openly in the end. So, but anyway, so that aside, it hasn't settled yet. I still think back in it and think like, wow, that's kind of bonkers that they did that. And I don't know if it had been more of a quieter scene that they had gone back to, like, instead of going back in time to this massive battle and action sequence that was going on, if they had gone back to just Archimedes in his home or whatever, looking at the dial or whatever, and it was just like a mano-a-mano kind of thing. Maybe it would have been too on the nose with other Indiana Jones movies. I don't know. I don't know what the right way would have been, but I still haven't just gotten used to the idea yet, so I need to see it again. But the emotional punch landed.
It landed.
Me. Yeah. So
that's what I was kind of saying.
And then it goes into the ending where we see Marion again, and you get that last little shot of Indy grabbing his hat, which another theory I saw online was that they're about to take the dial and try and save Mutt.
Oh.
And that's why he's picking up his hat again, despite having just been wearing pajamas. In the
Can I tell you what I thought was happening?
Scene. They're about to have sex, and he was putting on his hat.
He was like, listen up, Marion. Let's go to work. That's. I'll tell you what. I buy that more than I buy the dream theory. Okay,
I get that. Because like the more I thought about it, I was like, no, they established too much of everything else for that to have been the case. But it was. But again, I feel like they made such a clear point that they were called back to that one moment in time, and that's what that dial was for. So like, it's not really a time traveling device. Also, how Mads Mikkelsen also said earlier in the film, it's mathematics. It's not magic. It's not, it's not sorcery or whatever. Exactly. Yeah.
But no, I did. That is kind of I can appreciate that. Going back to save him,
like one last adventure kind of thing.
Yeah, and I'll say this: I remember after watching the first movie and watching 2 and 3, I just thought it was so wild that Marion never came back. Like, or was she right? She wasn't in 2 and 3.
No, she wasn't. She was
because 2 is technically a prequel or whatever, right? Isn't that how that goes?
Yes.
But I mean, I just remember thinking it's so odd. They had such great chemistry, and it just seemed like, of course, this is the one, you know?
Right.
So now I don't remember much about Kingdom of Crystal Skull, but I do remember she was in that one. But I really enjoyed. I thought it was very touching when she comes back at the end. It just feels like two people that you're obviously destined to be together.
Exactly.
And I was thinking, could you imagine being so old? And feeling like you're losing the love of your life and there's nothing you can do. But at the end, you know what I mean? That bond is so strong that you come back together anyway, you know? And I don't know. I thought that was a very beautiful moment. I loved how they were just kind of so sweet for the and gentle.
Score, her theme plays as soon as she enters.
Yeah.
That got me in the feels, like that moment, absolutely. And then, I don't know if you picked up on the Raiders reference.
Yeah.
Where she was like, where doesn't it hurt kind of thing. Yeah.
I thought that was so touching, very sweet. And I loved how they were like, well, we'll give you guys some privacy. And I was like, could you? Like, hello?
Yeah. Could you fuck off?
This is beyond. No, I had a great time, man. I thought this was a really fun movie. I really didn't think there was any point that I was like, I'm bored or I'm tired.
No,
or I just wish I wasn't here.
I was never bored. I found myself constantly invested in the story. I didn't I remember rolling my eyes when I saw Kingdom of the Crystal Skull.
Yeah.
At a lot of moments, like swinging in the trees with monkeys and stuff like that.
You're making me want to go back and watch this movie because I really don't remember.
I have done it. You know, there are some moments in that movie where you're just like, yeah, this is cool. Like this, like on par with this film, where it's fun, imaginative. It felt like Indiana Jones, but then it's just like everything in between, and then kind of towards the end, it kind of just like, ugh, and it ends on such a bland note. You know what I mean? But yeah, no, this one was fun, and like I said, I feel like Harrison Ford makes it feel sincere. It wasn't just kind of like a write-off, like, all right, yeah, let's do one last one, fuck it. Like, he really cares about this character, and I think that's why it went to the places that it did.
Yeah.
And I think it's just one of those movies that I think the more comfortable I get with it, I hope I like it more too, you know what I mean? But it was entertaining. I want to revisit it for sure.
Can I, before we wrap up, can I get on my soapbox just real quick about something?
Let's hear it.
And I texted you guys about this right at the end of the movie last night. But I just want to say that, and this is kind of odd because I'm so on the internet and I hate going to the theater, but I just think that this summer in particular, I've just really got the sense that everyone hops on the internet and they go, this movie's a flop. This movie sucks. This movie's mid. Don't go see it. And they'll have a list of reasons why, morally, Ezra Miller, or just, I don't know, just...
It's the fifth Indiana Jones. It didn't need to happen.
And it's just just very surface level criticisms. And they come in without even seeing the movie and tell you why you shouldn't see the movie.
Yeah.
And I can appreciate if you take a stand on something as to why I'm not seeing this movie, that's fine. But I just feel like people, they hop on the internet and they just want to be the first to say something negative to get interactions, or they want to be, or someone said something that was like somewhat of a hit tweet. And so then all they do is repurpose that just to sound like they know what they're talking about. You know,
it's clickbait too.
Yes, 100%. I want to shout out to Benji Cooksey just real quick. Me and him had a really, what I thought was a good conversation on Instagram. He told me that he didn't like, or that there was elements about The Flash he didn't like. Yeah. And I told him all of this is very valid because you went and saw the movie. Like, he told me that he was saying, I almost didn't go see this movie because of the buzz was so negative. But he went, and then if he still came out of it going, I didn't like XYZ about the movie, at least he saw it, and that was his own opinion. And I just want to say, this is the end of my soapbox, go see these movies. Like, there's no reason...
Don't talk about it.
There's no reason why someone should convince you not to see it because of their shitty opinion, or even if their opinion is valid, but go make your own opinion, okay?
Absolutely.
And side soapbox, stop sending these fucking movies to streaming a month after they come out. Okay.
Yeah.
Like let the hype build. You know, there's no reason why I should be able to watch Fast and the Furious 10 right now on streaming. Okay.
Right.
But I could.
And the numbers speak to that too.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? I feel like studios are still trying to come to terms with where we're at right now as far as like especially with like we were talking about Indiana Jones and expectations versus like projections. Is the difference. Like as far as box office goes, like a lot of what, you know, the news that I read, you know, leading up to a weekend, they are now deciphering like, oh, this movie is projected to make this much. There's very little surprise to be had, right? So like Indiana Jones was projected to make around $60 million domestically. That's exactly what it made. But Monday morning, you better believe, oh, Indiana Jones is a huge flop for the franchise.
Well, that's what I'm saying.
I'm just like, no, you're just following up on something you stated earlier.
Yes. And also,
putting a negative twist on it.
The moment you label it a flop, someone goes, well, I'm not going to go see it. I don't need to go see it.
Oh, I heard that movie flopped. I don't need to see it.
And we're like, okay, I mean, can you at least just go see it? I mean, I can understand like with theater prices being expensive, but Ed, how many times do you go see a movie and it's like fucking $7 a ticket or something like that? You know what I mean? Like
that's most of my viewings.
It can be done. You know what I mean?
We're not the average moviegoer, and I grant you that. But with everything these days, there's always a way to find a bargain. Like, I saw this, I chose to see Indiana Jones on a Thursday night. I knew the ticket was going to be more than
expensive.
I'm particularly... Yeah, and whatever, c'est la vie. I didn't come out of that movie thinking like, I just wasted all that money. Exactly.
Yeah.
And
so I feel like
there are ways around it. You can make excuses for it. But yeah, don't just sit there preaching about something that you haven't seen. Yeah, like if you're going to talk negatively about something, like passionately, you
at
have
least
to
back it up.
First. Back it up. Don't just...
I'll take it straight on the chin if I like a movie and you didn't like a movie, but we both saw it. You know?
Exactly.
If you saw something and I was super into it and you weren't, that just is the way it goes sometimes. Do you know what I mean? But if you're not even about seeing these movies... Yeah, I don't think the Flash was as bad. I understand. I don't think the Flash was as bad as people made it out to be.
Right.
And the only reason I came to that opinion was because I went and saw that movie.
Yeah.
Okay?
And I'm glad I saw it only because, you know, it gave me that perspective.
Yeah.
You know, for all its faults or its positives, like, I found them myself, kind of thing. You know what I mean?
Exactly.
And whether they were what I expected or not, you know, that was on to me. But, like, yeah, like, you gotta leave room for some, like, constructive criticism, first off.
Sure.
Just, like... But, yeah, just experience it for yourselves. Like, don't go off of... Just like, oh, you watch, like, a trailer breakdown or whatever, and it's like, here's a list of why this movie is going to suck. Like you were saying, it's just like people are bent on negative media right now. And, you know, this was a fun movie. Is it gonna change your life? Maybe not. Is it gonna change how you feel about sequels or franchises? Probably not.
But was it a fun time?
Yeah.
I thought so.
And did it feel heartfelt? For me, yeah. Like, it felt like it came from an honest place.
And I think if you listen to us, like, Ed is a super Indiana Jones fan, and I am a casual Indiana Jones fan.
Right.
Or maybe you wouldn't label yourself that, Ed. Maybe you would put yourself more in the middle or something.
No, I'm definitely a passionate.
Okay,
Indiana.
and I feel like we both came around with essentially the same opinion, was this was a fun movie. Can either of us pick a critique and crank it up to a 10? Sure. But...
Yeah. Because, again, we've seen it.
Yeah.
And those are things that I think are, like, proper criticisms, like, and I feel like people who have seen this movie probably share the same criticisms overall. It's just how you want to lean, you know, which way. You can either sit back and enjoy it, or you can let those faults, you know, ruin it for you, and that's fine, because that's what happens when you go to the movies.
My final thought, and I think we should. This is the button.
Wrap it up.
I thought The Last Jedi was the best Star Wars movie ever. Thank you guys. It's been Miguel Sanchez.
And I'm Ed Ball. And next week we'll have Luis back with us, but not Miguel.
We're doing a lot of traveling, babies.
We are doing so many traveling.
We're out.
I don't even know what we're going to talk about next week, but we'll find out.
We'll figure it out.
So stay tuned. We'll see you guys next time. Check us out on YouTube to see me have a heart attack. And we'll see you next time. It's been me, Ed Bull, and
Miguel Sanchez.
We see you.